Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Appreciate you tuning in once again. So we're going to do a paint video, another video from start to finish. This is going to be, we're going to do this Mark II or Volume 2, Episode 2, whatever you want to call it. About a year ago, I did a video on the Mercury Cougar. We painted MCW enamel Highland Green. So I'll show you that car right here. Yes, the old Cougar. This turned out pretty nice. Now this car does not have clear coat on it. So this is the car we're painting right here. This is the 69 Pontiac GTO by Revell. This is my giveaway car. This one I'm doing on the channel. So if you not have yet seen any of the videos on this, I think we're on 2 or 3. Not really sure. I'm not keeping track. I should be because obviously I'm doing them, but you know, it's been a bit since I put one up on it. So I am giving this car away on the channel once it's built, to some lucky winner, whoever is interested in it. We're going to do a drawing on it and all that good stuff once it's finished. So this is the car here. As you can see, it is not, nothing's been done to it. I was running some black paint here and I thought, you know what, hey, I got a leftover, I'm going to shoot that. I'm sure it's going to get covered up anyways. So the only thing I did to this, it had a really nasty body line right here, a mold line. So I did a little sanding on it, but we're going to do a little more to that. So I'm going to show you beginning to end on this. So we're going to do today in this video, we're going to primer it, and then we're going to wet sand that primer, and then we're going to paint it, and then we're going to pretty much bake it from that point. That's all we're going to do in this video. So we are using enamel. We're using the MCW, and I know a lot of you guys use lacquers and acrylics and all that stuff, but the enamel, it's basically the mixing is going to be pretty much the same, and the spraying is going to be pretty much the same thing. So that's what we're going to do on this one. Other than that, a couple things I like to start with. I like to do is, you guys may think it's silly, but I like to put a fresh shirt on, a clean shirt, because you don't really realize it, but your paint booth is on, right? So this would be kind of step one. So your paint booth is on, it's running, and I know it's not the most critical thing, and you know, but this is just me. I'm just showing you how I do things, and you don't want some nasty shirt on that's all dusty and all this kind of stuff, and because when you're moving your arms, you know, painting a model or whatever, you're aggravating that shirt a little bit. Well, your paint booth is on, it's got a fan in there, and yes, I know the fan's not some high-end CFM drawing, like, you know, sucking you in there like an airplane door. I mean, but still, the air's got to come from somewhere, so that's where a lot of your dust sometimes will come from, obviously from the room, but it can come from your clothes. So I like to put a cleaner shirt on, or something that's not really kind of full of cat hair or whatever, you know. And this one just come out of the dryer, so it's like, she's downy fresh, you know what I mean? So that's what I like to do. I like to keep my hands clean. They're actually clean tonight, guys. If guys that watch my videos, my hands are usually always nasty looking. I helped the wife do some dishes tonight, so we're good to go. I do wear gloves usually when I paint, so all that good stuff. So in the video, we are going to do is, I'm going to show you in depth on like the airbrush needle, PSI. Like I say, I get a lot of questions on this, and my first video I did, like say a year ago, I wasn't really in depth with it. So this one we're going to get a little more technical with it, and all that good stuff. And now this is airbrush. We're doing an airbrush tutorial, because I know a lot of you guys have airbrush questions, and believe me, I am not the airbrush master. I'm not that guy. I'm not the messiah on this. I've been airbrushing for a long time, but I know just enough to be dangerous with it, pretty much. Go that route. But so far, it's worked good for me, you know, up to this point, you know. So anyways, we're painting this MCW Hugger Orange. So the original car color was, what was that? They call it Carousel Red. That was the original color of the car. And I believe Hugger Orange is pretty much the same equivalent to that color. So that's what we're going to do with it, and all that good stuff. So we're going to take over the bench, and we're going to get started, and yeah, let's get going. All right, guys, so before we get started, we'll get some supplies gathered around, things that you're going to need to get this started here. So first off, we're going to start with some measuring cups. These are the cups I usually use most of the time. These come from Hobby Nut Models. These are 30 milliliter cups. I don't know if you can see that or not. Get it just right in the light here. So we're going to need 3 of these. I buy these from down there. They're actually really cheap, very reasonable. I believe you get 50 of them for like $2.98 or something, so it's not that bad. They're pretty inexpensive. So you need 3 of those. So one is going to be for, I'm going to use it for thinner, one for primer, and one for paint. So that's what we need those for. And the thinner cup you're really not going to waste because we can use that on another later project. Other than that, we're going to use some pipettes, however you want to say it. Depends on what part of the country you're from, I guess. These are 3.0 milliliter is the size of these. So we're going to need 4 of these. And one will be for thinner, one will be for paint, one will be for primer, and one will be for hardener. Because the hardener one, once you use that, it goes in the garbage. So after that, we'll need a skew. One of the little skews here, that's going to be for our hood. And to hold the hood to the skew, not everybody needs to use this or has to, but this is what I use. I use the Fun Tack, the little Loctite. You get this at Walmart. It's like $1 something for the pack. And this will last me quite a long time. So to hold the model, you're going to need some kind of device to hold it down. I use this a lot of times, or I use a stick. I like using these craft sticks. These you just get anywhere, like dollar store. They're obviously $1, something like that. So I'll use one of these sometimes, and I'll tape it to the body. So if you're going to go that route, you'll need yourself some nice painter's tape of some sort that'll hold good. But that's an optional thing for you if you don't have one of these. This is what I use. I use this a lot. I don't know. Sometimes I just like it that way. Other than that, we're going to need a set of gloves. Keep those hands clean. And this is optional, but suggested. A breathing apparatus, some kind of mask of some sort to save your lungs. The precious little breathing bags you have inside your chest. Like say, this is kind of a must. I have to admit, I don't use this every single time, but to do a full paint job, a lot of times I will use this. Okay, moving on to our other materials. We're going to need some primer. This is Mr. Finishing Surfacer. This is 1500 gray. I also get all these products that you're seeing here. These do come from Hobby Nut Models. And like I say, this stuff is fantastic. Now, if you don't want to use this and you'd rather just go ahead and use the aerosol can for this, feel free. I have one here. This is the pink, obviously, and I'm out of gray, but I do use this occasionally, and I get a little bit of warp on my bench here for some reason. So this works really good. I just got to give it light coats with this. And also we're going to use our Mr.Color leveling thinner. This is my to-go-to. This is my favorite stuff. I use this on everything pretty much. Works great. So after that, we're going to need our paint. This is MCW Hugger Orange. So this is 6900E Hugger Orange Enamel. Like I say, this is from MCW. Great stuff. And then after that, we're going to need some panel line. So we're going to use some of this, and I'll show you where that comes in. And last of all, we'll need a model. So and here we go. So what I'd like to say I'm going to do is we're going to start on this. We're going to get this stuff out of the way. Please hold. Perfect. All right. Other product I did not mention, you're going to need some sandpaper. We're going to use some 1500. This is just something I buy at the auto parts store. You get I think these are, yeah, they're 5 packs, and I mean, for what you get compared to modeling stuff, this will last you like 5 times longer at half the price. If you want to, feel free to use the modeling sponges. Hey, no problem with that. This is just a lot of times what I use. Just all depends on what you're doing. I believe this is my last piece. Yes, it is. So what I'll do is I'll take this and just cut it in little pieces. A lot of times I use my scissor and it dulls them up really nice. Just feels like there's 2 pieces here. There is. Excellent. I thought it was out, but I wasn't. We don't need a lot, so we'll just run with this. And like I say, what we're going to do is, being I have this edge here, I already took this down a little bit with some sandpaper. We're going to give this just a little bit of hit all over, because there's a little bit of a sharp edge right here. We're going to knock that down just a little bit, and you can see a little bit of scuffing through here and all that good stuff. So we'll clean this up a little bit. There's a little bit of edging here, some sharp corners. So we'll get it nicely cleaned up. That'll give us a nice base for our primer. Then go from there. This car had a little bit of flash on it, which I took care of that earlier, so we're good to go there. So I'm going to take this, cut this one more time, And I have my little cup of water. I had a bigger cup here at one time. I have no idea where it went. It's just how it goes. But that's okay. We're not doing no big major overall. So this will work just fine. So we're going to give this just a real quick. And I'm not doing nothing major. We're not removing any detail. And this is not... I know a lot of guys will argue with you on it. This is not a necessity. I don't usually do this a lot of time. This just had a lot of rough area here. So I just kind of want everything to match. And it is nice to give something for that primer to stick to. You know, just a little extra versus that ultra smooth. Now, for what I've found with this primer, it bites into the plastic pretty good no matter what. It don't matter if you've had it sanded or not. It's usually bites pretty good and does the job. And the only nice thing about doing this, it will take out some imperfections of the plastic. Anything like that. Like say if you get some high spots here, you can walk them down just a little bit. You don't have to get carried away with it, you know, it's just, but it's nice to get the edges, take that little sharp edge off in there, providing it's, doesn't need to be there, obviously. Sometimes you get that sharp body line molding. Like I say, we'll just give it a quick back and forth. Nothing too special. And we're going to do after this, we're just going to give it a quick wipe down with a dry towel. I usually use microfiber towels. Those are my to-go-to towels. So when you're sanding these, you got to watch. We have our GTO emblem here. Little details. You don't want to sand that stuff off unless you're going all out and you're going to buy the photo etched letters. I mean, those always look pretty good. So if you're going to do that, if you're going to rub those letters off, it's not a big deal. So we're going to cut this down just a little bit. Just kind of take that little bit of that sharpness out of there. Now on this kit here, if you were painting this with a metallic, you'd have to be real careful of that line because that's where your metallic is going to want to separate from that body line. Any sharp body lines. Today we're not using a metallic. I will do a video next time around maybe on a metallic color because they do spray a little different. Not a lot, but a little bit. You just got to, there's more flash time in between. I don't give my models a lot of flash time. I find with the MCW you really don't have to. So you're pretty good with that. Okay, so that's pretty good there. Say we don't have to go nothing too crazy. Now obviously when you're painting, you want everything that you're going to be painting the body color available. So we have our nose piece, we have our hood, and then we have the rear deck spoiler. So the hood had a piece here, took that off already. So what I'm going to do with the skew, because I did not realize that this has hood hinges on it. So usually I would do is I take the Loctite Fun Tack, and I'd just take a little piece, pull that off. I'd put it on the bottom, stick it there, and I'd stick my skew on there, and I'd hold that in place for you so you can move it around and paint it and all that good stuff. What we're going to do on this one, we're just going to lock it down right there. That's how we're going to paint this. And I like to keep it up nice and straight so when it dries, it's not sitting there and giving it a chance for the paint to run. Not that we're going to have an issue with it, but just for that reason. Plus, it's easier for me to paint. You can spin it around, do whatever. So that's what this is going to be for. So we're not going to need this. I don't think anyways. We might need it for here. Not sure because I got to figure out how we're going to hold that yet. And the front nose piece. So we may need this. Don't exclude that. So this is ready to go. So we got a little bit of paper still good here. So we're going to do the hood. So a lot of times doing this stuff, guys, a lot of it's prep work. You want that paint job to look really nice. Take your time with it. Don't rush through it. I'll be honest with you, when I paint these, it takes me quite a while to paint a car. And it's just the way it goes. Because I take my time. I say it all. It's all in prep work. So this feels like she's pretty wore out. So we're going to start with this piece. Now this here, obviously I'm not going to be able to sand very much. Because you're not going to be able to get into some of the little nooks and crannies. So we're going to just give a little bit of on the edge. Nothing too much. That's probably about all we're going to do with that. And the rear deck spoiler. Give a nice shot across the back. Hit those edges good. Make sure we don't have no line on there. Okay, we'll save that piece because it's not bad. So we'll use that for some of our primer. A second thing I did not tell you that we're going to need is I usually use microfiber towels. I buy these like at Sam's Club, I mean, sure, Costco's, whoever's nearest to you. And anytime I do this, I always start with a new one, because a lot of times, sometimes I'll polish or wax one, and you do not want to grab one of these that's has wax on it, and you get started, and you're like, yeah, okay, we're drying it. Well, you just sitting there waxing the plastic, so now when you go to put the paint on it, now it's just like, oh boy. So this here, I won't take it in and wash it before we primer it. I'll just do it with the towel, just to keep it nice and simple, because we're going to wet sand the primer, so it's not a big issue. If there is something little in there, we can wet sand it out. But after we get done with the primer, we will take it into the house. So I did not sand the bottom of it. I'm not overly worried about that. So at this point, we're going to get ready to mix our primer. So we're going to take cup number 1, cup number 2. We're going to leave these here for right now. Now we're going to put this third one to the side. That'll be for paint. And we're going to use our pipettes. So like, once again, we're using Mr. Hobby Finishing Surfacer 1500 Gray. Alright guys, so now it's get time to primer this. So before I do anything, I like to get everything ready to go. I do this before I mix any color, paint, primer, whatever I'm doing. So for primer, we're just going to use this guy. I know a lot of you guys have this. If you don't, like I said, there's a lot of other options out there. So it does work pretty good. Sometimes I don't like this because I like to spin it and it'll sit there and flip like that once in a while, and it makes me nervous. I've dropped one before because I didn't realize when I first bought this comes apart. And I was like, oh yeah, and I flipped it and boop, fell right on the floor. I thought, oh, right after the clear coat job. I thought that's awesome. So yeah, so things to look out for. So we got that there. So this here we're going to put on a skew, and this is where the Loctite putty comes in. So don't take a lot. Rip off a little chunk. Just fold up into the back. And this is like poster putty, that stuff you use to put posters on the wall. Just put a little chip in there and pinch her down good. And just stick your skew in there. And voila, instant holder. Works very nice. Probably going to do the same for this, and I'm going to do it right in the very middle. That way we can touch it up once everything's said and done. Because I'm kind of seeing a harder time to hold on to that. So we don't need a lot for this. We're just going to ball a little bit of this up. And put some right in the center here. Kind of like so. Just want to touch a little bit. So that way it'll be easy to touch up later in life. Like that. And I'm going to have to get another skew for this one. Like so. So we'll obviously have to touch that up later once we're done. And we'll need another skew for the hood. So once again, I told you needed 1, but we're going to need 3 for this one. So there you have it. So we're good there. Now the other thing too, and I've said this many times on videos, whenever you guys are painting and you put them on these things, make sure it'll hold it. You can flip it around, do whatever. Because once you start painting or priming or whatever, and it starts falling, you're not going to be able to grab it and reposition it, because by that point, it's too late. So just kind of got to pay attention to that part of it. So we'll shake this up really good. I believe this is one I've already used. Oh yeah, she's almost empty. Very good, very good. So I'll show you why I like to use 2 cups. It's just me, you don't have to, but like I say, the one we're using thinner in, you don't have to obviously keep the same cup. So like I say, these are 30 milliliter cups. So I always kind of double check everything. I shook this pretty good, but I'll still stir it. You can buy those little paint stir sticks. So like I say, we're just grabbing some up here. Like so. Now we're going to do the same with thinner. And obviously you don't want to use that in your thinner. So we get another one out. And this one here we'll use the whole time. And we'll do the same thing here. And obviously you can dump this in. It's not a big deal. It's just easier this way for me. Now sometimes you can always go a little bit more on thinner. Just to give it a little better deal. So as you can see, we're exactly 5 milliliters from thinner to primer. So at this point we're just going to mix them. Like I say, that cup now is still usable, so we just leave that off the side. And I'll take this cup, or this pipette that still has a little bit of primer in it, and now we can kind of wash this out. And I'll just work this back and forth. You can use whatever method you like. I'd actually like to get one of those Badger mixers one day. It's on my want list, but for now this works pretty good for me. And like I say, these bottles of primer go a long ways. So once I get it mixed up pretty good, I like to go along the side of the cup, and you almost want like a regular milk consistency. You don't want it to where it's like, oh, so thick. You want it pretty much just nice and watery. So it's a little transparent through there, not a lot, but that's what I want, just something like that. I don't want it too thick, but I don't want it thin up to where I'm spraying just thinner on it. Okay, that's going to be our mix for that. And I'll do is I'll throw this in the garbage. So we're going to move on to the paint booth. So for primering, I have a couple different airbrushes. So for primering, we're going to use the 0.0. This works pretty good. I have a MAC valve on it. If you guys are using airbrushes, these are the way to go. Because if you're swapping airbrushes around like I do all the time, you put your little MAC valve on there and you don't have to sit there and untwist the hose and all that stuff. Obviously you want to make sure that cup is clean and all that good stuff. And I'll take you over to the booth and we'll get started. So before we get started, we are using about 18 psi in air pressure. And I usually run this for primer and for my paint. So this compressor is just a little guy, just a Amazon special. Actually I got this off eBay, I think, so wasn't too bad a price. Come with regulator, everything. Works pretty good. Alright guys, so I start out with a little bit of thinner in the airbrush, just enough to clear it out. I'll dump that, and we'll start with our primer we have mixed up. For what I mixed, that should give me pretty much a full cup on this airbrush. And yes, I do not run a cup topper like a cap. That's just me. So I always use a test spoon to make sure things are spraying properly, and this is spraying pretty good. And so we're going to start with our hood here. So I start with my sides, get them primered first, and work my way around. And then we'll slowly work our way across the top. And like I say, I just do real light coats. I don't try to cake it on the first pass. Like I say, if you guys using aerosol cans, this is a whole different ball game doing this, because it's not like spray, 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 and we're done. Now if you had like a KREG'S type airbrush that puts it out in volume with a big trigger on it, that's a little different story. But for this, with a small needle, I just put very light coats. This way we're not filling in any panel lines, anything like that, or any small detail. We're just giving it nice light shots, and I just give it multiple coats. Now primer, I don't do pretty much any flash time, because it dries so quick. It's, you know, pretty good after that. So like I say, we just give it a few multiple coats, and then we'll do the bottom. And after that, we'll just get her wrapped up from there. So that turned out pretty sharp. Alright, and after that, we're going to move on to our nose piece. So like I say, once again, just some light shots back and forth. Don't want to cover it first pass. I'll just give it a nice light hit. Make sure you get all those little odd corners and angles, because those will kind of bite you in the end. Sometimes I like to start with those. That way you're not trying to blast a bunch of paint in the tight corner and then go through and do the rest of it. Now you got a lot of heavy paint in the middle or wherever that corner may be. That covers really nice. And we'll get the spoiler painted. Same thing. Kind of do my edging. This is a small enough piece so we can work it back and forth. And once this is all set and cured, we'll take and paint underneath where that spot is that's holding that on with that fun tack stuff. And last of all, we'll get the body work on there. So I like to start at the bottom corners, around the wheel wells, all that kind of stuff first. Get that part going. Some of the hard to reach spaces, spots, all that good stuff. So time I get done painting this, I may have enough primer. I may have to redo the cup, might have to add some more. We'll see here in a little bit. So I like doing all the door jambs first. Like say all the weird sharp angles, all the edges. And just work my way around. And then once I get all that done, I'll do like just a regular overall and go from there. Like I say, just nice even coats, just back and forth. And like I said, at first shot, you're not trying to paint it. You're just putting a little bit of a tack coat down. And then we'll come in later on and we'll put it on a little heavier after that. Once we get that going, then like I say, after that, we'll start and do a kind of an overall. And then start that overall shot. Basically, I start my paints all the same way. I start at one bottom corner and just work my way around. I don't go all over the place, you know, start here, start there. I just start at one side and walk it all the way around. Taking your time. Take your time, guys. It's not a race. Now on these top panels, I'll give it a little extra, a couple extra coats, just because for me, you know, that's probably going to be what's going to be wet sanded the hardest, is that top. Because, you know, for when you're looking at the model, you know, what's the first thing you usually see is the roof, hood, and trunk. You know, then sides is kind of last from that point. So I like to make sure those are really nice and polished. Obviously, you want the sides to look good too, but you always see those parts first, and a lot of times they'll spend a little extra on those top pieces. It's about the initial appearance, you know. But we'll get the rest of the car looking basically the same. I just like to put a little extra on the top. Sometimes you get that little heavy-handed when you're sanding, and I like to have the nice to have that little insurance on there. So you can see in my cup I'm about empty, and I'm not quite done. So this gives me a couple opportunities. First, we're going to refill that cup. I'm going to go back to the bench. I'm going to do it off camera because it's going to be no different than what we first just did. And after that, I'm going to let this flash dry just for a second. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to wet sand it real quick, just an overall. Because there's a few things on there I noticed as I'm painting it or primering it, that there's some edges that I really didn't care for. So like I said, we're going to refill that and we're going to come back. Okay guys, so we filled the cup up once more. Did a light wet sanding on that, as you can see. Like I say, because that spot right here and a spot right there, I noticed when I was primering it, it seemed awful sharp. So I thought this would be a perfect opportunity while I'm remixing. And I just took a little bit of wet and dry and sand that down one more time. And why I figured while I was at it, I'll just give the rest of the car a little bit of a quick hit, just to smooth it out just a little bit. And now we're going to give it that final coat and we should be good to go. So like I say, just nice even passes back and forth. I don't want to get too heavy with it, too carried away. Say to give that roof another good heavy coat. I shouldn't say heavy coat, you know, another good coat. Let's go that route. And like I say, we'll go around those sharp edges one more time. And we'll take her down the other side here. And we'll wrap this up. Alright guys, that's looking pretty good, so we'll take her over to the oven and let her bake for a bit, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, so we gotta get our airbrush cleaned out. So this is how I pretty much clean my airbrush. I'll take a little bit of my, yeah, it's not the best thing. I'm out of my airbrush cleaner at the moment, so I have to use, unfortunately, a little bit of leveling thinner. And I'll dump a little bit in, and I keep this paintbrush in my paint booth at all times. It's just an old brush, and I'll pull a bit of thinner in there, and I wipe this around. Hit the needle a few times spraying it while I'm wiping it, and this works pretty good. So it's just quick and simple, nothing too big. And I'll take the brush, go to the front of it, I'll dump that thinner out, I'll add a little bit more. As you can see, it's getting pretty clean. I'll clean it out, you know, let it pull itself out of there. I add just a little more thinner to it. I'll do this process a few times. And obviously sticking that paintbrush back in there, the paintbrush has a little thinner on it, or primer, so it does get nasty looking quick, but it does still clean pretty good. So like I say, I'll do this a couple times, make sure the bowl's nice and clean, and like I say, just easy, quick. It's nothing major. Once again in the front, and like I say, I hold that in and I hold the trigger, and that lets that go back so it cleans that needle up pretty good. Alright guys, that's looking pretty clean. So in the end, I'll take just a couple drops, just a few drops of my leveling thinner, and I just leave it in there, and then I put it away. And at that point, I do put the cap on it and color good. Alright, after we're all set, we'll take it over and put it in the dehydrator, aka the Susie Bake Oven, for a little bit. Have the other parts in here baking away. We'll just set that in there like so, and we'll let it cook for a while. So this is dehydrator, works good for this. So this goes in kind of weird temperature increments, but usually I'll do is I'll put a model in. I don't know if the LED's probably freaking out. So I have this set right now at 122 degrees. That's usually where I bake my models at most of the time, or about 113. And this, for being primer, this shouldn't take long at all. I mean, I'm talking maybe 20 minutes tops, and it'll be ready to wet sand and pretty much paint at that point. So we're going to give that a few minutes to cure up, and we'll get onto some wet sanding. Alright guys, we're going to wrap this video up, and look out for the next video on wet sanding and getting some color laid down. Thanks for watching, and we will see you on the next video. You guys have a good one.